All this is Dr. Mobeen Sayed from DrBeen.com. Welcome to one more show. So this is the last day for this year. We will miss Betty White. May she rest in peace. Um, Happy New Year to everyone. There was a very common question for a few days that how are unvaccinated faring in the time of Omicron? And before folks become emotional about it, that somehow I am giving a bad news to unvaccinated. I think it is the reason folks who are not vaccinated have been asking is to understand how do they take care of themselves and how much they should be careful. So I think this is important data for them to understand how we can keep ourselves uh, protected. So this data is interesting. And John Snyder, thank you very much. Sorry, John, thank you very much for sharing this link. This is the data is from South Africa. This is their research letter to JAMA, and that is what I'm going to share with you and some data from there. I think it is very interesting data. There is a lot of positive news in there, but generally the summary is that unvaccinated have a little more severity of the disease, or higher percentage, more unvaccinated have severe disease compared to unvaccinated. That is a basic summary. So let's see the data. So quick references. This is DrBeen.com. Then here, this is the study that John shared. And thank you, John, very much for this. Characteristics and outcomes of hospitalized patients in South Africa during the COVID-19 Omicron wave compared with previous waves. This is very, very interesting compared with the previous waves. So, of course, this data is pertinent to South Africa. It is probably not able to be put one to one for other communities. So it is interesting to see it, but I don't think it is interesting enough to say this is exactly how this would happen in other places. I think you realize that. The tables in this study are very, very interesting to look at. I'm going to walk you through those, but it will be fun if you just do it on your own too. Then here is the current wave, and if you see, this wave is almost over. This here as well, the wave is almost over, and that is amazing. I love it. So now let's start. I also have the letter. This is a letter, research letter. I also have it over here. I've gone over this and put some data together. We'll go over the tables as well. So let's look at the highlights first. So first of all, Happy New Year. I did this doodle in Rebel, and I am new to Rebel, so there is still some roughness. And I think my artwork generally have that little roughness to it. So anyways, Happy New Year to everyone. Some folks are already in the new year. Some are still going to be having the new year soon. So I might come online at 12 p.m. Pacific time and start teaching because that is my mission. This is the Omicron time. Here is my little doodle for today's talk. And there is this little O and big P is saying, don't tase me, bro. And let's start. So here is the fourth wave. You saw that before as well. Here, now the discussion starts. So for South Africa, there are four waves. This is the fourth wave. The waves were June to August 2020. That was ancestral or Wuhan virus. Then November 2020 to January 2021. That was beta. May to September 2021, that was delta. And then November 15 onwards, mostly over, but still going. So that is the fourth wave. It is very interesting that researchers compared them. And because that comparison was needed, there is still some deficiencies in this data. I really wanted to call them and say, could you give me this data as well? But anyways, so here is what they did. What they did was they looked at every wave. So this is important to understand the data. How did they arrive at this data? They looked at every wave and looked at when 26% of the community became positive for that specific variant. So they took those parts So that is an area which became more reliable for a specific variant. And after that, it was that variant that rapidly became dominant. So you can say in simple terms that they figured out a one-to-one comparison between the variants. Here is what they found. And this comparison is now for fourth wave, the current wave. They have taken data from November 15th to December 7th, because that was the apples to apples match with the previous waves, and not the whole waves, parts of the previous waves that matched this time. So, for example, for third wave, they took the data from June 1st to 23rd, and they matched that to the fourth wave, November 15th to December 7th. So they did a beautiful job of mapping them. Okay, so what did they see? First of all, they saw that 6,342 people arrived at this hospital chain. This is not for the whole South Africa. This is one chain. I believe the Netcare is the name of that chain. We'll see that when we see the letter. It is one chain. I think they have 49 hospitals, 10,000 beds. So this is that chain's data, not the whole South Africa. So in wave 3, the previous wave, 6,342 people came to their hospitals for treatment. Out of them, 68% had to be admitted because they were becoming severe. In this wave, 2,351 people came in for the treatment, and out of them, 41.3% were admitted. So first you can see that a smaller percentage is admitted compared to Delta. Then, to those who are admitted, how did they progress? And what is the situation with vaccination and unvaccinated? So let's look at more data here, characteristics further. This is very interesting as well. With this wave, fourth wave, they observed that younger patients were more hospitalized or coming to hospital for treatment. And that can be, for example, younger patients may not have been vaccinated yet, or younger patients may have been a little more open for roaming around, working around, thinking that we would have less severe situation anyways. So there can be more factors, not that just the Omicron is only attacking younger people. So younger patients were more. 36 years was the average age, compared to 59 years average age for the previous wave. There were more females this time compared to previous waves. Then this is very interesting, significantly fewer people with comorbidities. And that once again could be because people with comorbidities may have been a little more nervous and had gotten the the vaccine, or some of them had gotten the infection, so they may have been more careful. So again, this discussion is not about the factors, but the data. So significantly fewer with the comorbidities. Then here starts the interesting data. Acute respiratory condition. How bad was it? Were they coming in with the respiratory situation? Were they coming in with the oxygen requirement? Were they breathless? So wave number 3, 91.2% people came in with some respiratory issue, an acute issue, versus this time only 31.6%. So we saw that 2,300 some people came into the hospital. Out of them, about 40% got admitted. And from these people, only 31.6% had the severe or the acute respiratory outcomes, compared to 91% in the previous waves. That's a beautiful number, actually, or trend or behavior of the virus plus a society. So I created these charts are not in the original paper, but I created these charts so that we can have a visual analysis of how it is. So here, the red one is the previous wave and acute respiratory outcome, or people in the acute respiratory state when they came to the hospital, versus this wave, the green one, and you can see 91% versus 31%. Beautiful. Then, second part, oxygen requirement. Wave 3, the previous wave, Delta wave, 74% of the patients coming to the hospital required oxygen. Wave 4, only 17.6%. This is good news with the new year. So again, a visual representation, oxygen requirement for the wave 3 patients who came to hospital, 74% needed oxygen. Now 17% needed oxygen. You see the difference? Number of admissions, number of people coming to hospital are less. Whatever are the factors, we're not talking about the factors, we're just looking at the dynamics of the society. Number of people arriving at the hospital are less. That means even if there are more cases, they are just being handled outside. Then out of those who are in the hospital, they are less severe. That is a second dynamic. And significantly less severe. 74% requiring oxygen in the last wave versus 17.6% requiring oxygen. Then ICU admission. So within in the South Africa, when the patient is in the hospital, it is not necessary that they directly are in the ICU. They get in the ward, and then if they become more severe, they go to the ICU. So out of those 2,300 people, 901 got admitted. The remaining went back. Those who got admitted, out of them, then how many ended up in the ICU? So previous waves, let's say wave number 3, 29.9% people who were admitted in the hospital ended up in the ICU. This wave, 18.5%. So not a huge difference as we saw with the other metrics, but still a downward trend. Number of people, the cases are more, number of people coming to hospital are less compared to other waves. Then those who are coming for the treatment and then sent back that, hey, just do this and you're okay. And the ones that are admitted are less. Then the one who are admitted are less severe. Then whoever are severe from them going to ICU are less as well. And this is a visual representation, not too much difference, but again, important difference. Then death rate. I haven't talked about vaccine and unvaccinated yet. I'll go there. This is general, without uh, regardless of the vaccine status. Wave 1, death rate was 19.7%. Wave 2, this is of the hospitalized patients, not of the ICU bound. Wave 2, 29.1%. Wave 4, 2.7%. 2.7%. More cases, less in the hospital. Then whoever are in the hospital, less severe. Then whoever are severe, look at the percentage of death. Almost 10 to 15% reduction in death rate. And this is a visual representation. This wave is the green one, which is almost negligible line here. And then the previous wave, 29%, that is Delta. And then the 19.7 is the first wave, that is original ancestor. Here is the vaccine versus unvaccinated. So out of those 2,300 people who arrived in this hospital for treatment, 901 got hospitalized, got admitted. Out of those 901, 24.2% were vaccinated. 66.4% were unvaccinated. So almost 2/3 were unvaccinated. And then there was one 9.4% whose status was not known, or they didn't find the record, or the record was not updated. 9.4% are in unknown state. That means some of them would be in vaccinated, some of them will be in unvaccinated, etc. And the definition of vaccination was 1 dose of Johnson and Johnson or 2 doses of Pfizer. So look at this one once more. Out of everyone who is admitted, now there is a question that is not answered. That question is, out of those 2,300 that arrived in the hospital, that came to hospital and said, please see, we have a problem, what was um, their separation of vaccinated versus unvaccinated? That is not known. But once they were admitted, that is here. So today I was so much, I wanted to call them and say, do you have that data? Because if you have the data for people who are in the hospital, then maybe you have the data who came to hospital and then they were sent back. But anyways, that one part is not there. So that is actually, in my opinion, an important part of the whole discussion. So anyways, the ones who are admitted, 24%, 24.2% vaccinated, unvaccinated 66.4, unknown 9.4. Here is their visual representation. So green is vaccinated, 24%, or 25%, right? So 24.2%. Red is unvaccinated, and unknown is 9.4. Once again, you have to still keep the whole thing in mind. Number of cases are more, that would include vaccinated and unvaccinated. Number of people coming to hospital are less compared to previous variants. That includes vaccinated and unvaccinated. Then whoever are in the hospital, there is a bigger chunk that is sent back. That includes vaccinated and unvaccinated. Then those who are admitted in the hospital, they are vaccinated and unvaccinated, and from there who become severe and so on. So you see that there is a structure that it's not generally the virus, and that society's response has become much more milder and controlled. So an analysis would be this way, to kind of make it a little bit whole numbers so we can see it. If there were 200 patients admitted in a hospital, out of them, a total of 5.4 patients will die. That is 2.7% death rate. Out of these 5.4, there will be so out of these 200, there will be 48.4, or about 50 people who will be vaccinated. And out of them, one will die. Then there will be about 133 that will be unvaccinated. And out of them, 3.6 will die. And then there will be 19 whose status is not known. And half. That means out of 400, one will die. So this is the status for this severity. So there is a question, VNE says, I'm sorry, what was the vaccination rate? So if I go back here, vaccination rate, so if you're asking the society's vaccination rate, that is different. I think 30% in some areas and lesser or more in others. Then per cohort, that is different as well. Older age, people with comorbidities have more vaccinated group than other. So we can assume overall society 30%. Then those who were hospitalized, in there, the breakdown was vaccinated were 24.2%, unvaccinated was 66.4%. Pancake says, where are the 1.1 plus 3.6 plus 0.5? So I just did a round number. So if you did the exact percentages from here, you can actually get the exact fractions as well. That is my Alexa and me rounding the number. So apologies for it. So for example, 48.4, Alexa, what is 2.7% of 48.4?
2.7% of 48.4 is 1.3068.
So we pancake. So 0, 1.3. So 0.36306 is with the 48.4. So similarly, Alexa, what is 2.7% of 132.8?
2.7% of 132.8 is 3.5856.
So I think you can realize that there is some here. So we could say 1.3, then 3.6. I can actually quickly correct it as well. I think this is it, right? So going back here. All right, so continuing. Where is the 1 second? So this is the kind of numbers we have. Then now there are some questions that are still out there, and I'll dig some more studies. John had shared some more. I would find some more studies too. For example, these questions that what percentage of treated people were vaccinated versus unvaccinated? That will be a very interesting percentage. Then what percentage of unvaccinated died versus vaccinated died? So there is a 2.7% overall. Was there a difference that, let's say, vaccinated or unvaccinated, was their death rate different? Then similarly, from hospitalized in the ward to ICU, was there a percentage different from vaccinated to unvaccinated? That is also not there. This 2.7% is a cumulative percentage, which is for both vaccinated and unvaccinated. So that means there is some more data clarity that is needed. So Denise says that we still don't know how many of the unvaccinated had COVID exactly. So at least here in this paper, we do not know that. We don't even know that out of these 2,300, at least in the paper, I'm sure that authors know it. Even for these 2,300, we don't know how many vaccinated versus unvaccinated. So there is some data that is missing. Three King says over time. Every time he asks his Alexa question, three of my Alexa responds also. That's the plan. Okay, so let's continue so that we can finish with this one. So this is the discussion. Now let's very quickly look at the tables as well, because I think tables themselves are very interesting. So here, where is my mouse? Here. I'm going to go down to the tables. This is table 1. Characteristics of patients admitted with a positive COVID-19 result in the fourth wave. So they are admitted. So how many patients were positive who were treated at the hospital? Treated at the hospital doesn't mean admitted. So there were 2,351. Out of them, 971 were admitted. If you see previous waves, for example, wave number 3 with Delta, 6,342 were treated and almost 70% were admitted. So there is a lower rate of admission at this time, which would mean for both vaccinated or unvaccinated. Remember, Dr. Kutsia had said that I am receiving patients who are vaccinated and unvaccinated, and they both are able to be treated from outpatient, in outpatient. So then if you see here age, 36 year is a median age this time, previous waves 53, 54, 59. Then sex, male, female. Here is the difference, 590 versus 381, and previously it was more men. So for example, wave 3 more men, wave 2 almost equal, more women, but almost there. And then wave 1, again a little more on the female side, but slightly. Then if you look at the comorbidities, 23% had the comorbidities this time. In the previous waves, people who got admitted, 52% had the comorbidities, or 58 or 56. This time, people with the comorbidities were 23%. Then acute respiratory condition on admission, that they are breathless at the admission time, 31%, compared to 91% in the previous wave, 87% and 72% in the waves before that. Huge difference. Then if you see down here, vaccination status, vaccinated 235 out of the 971 admitted, 645 unvaccinated out of the 971, and then 91 unknown, which would divide between these two as well. And they have the definition of vaccination over here as having 1 dose of Johnson & Johnson or 2 doses of Pfizer-BioNTech. And the comorbidities included diabetes, heart condition, hypertension, chronic kidney failure, chronic pulmonary condition, and cancer. Okay, so continuing, I want to see this one as well. This is also interesting. This is their table number 2. In here, what they're talking about is the outcome of patients admitted. So what happened to them when they were admitted? Receiving oxygen therapy, 17%. Compare that to the previous waves. Delta wave, 74%. Beta wave, 80%. Ancestral wave, 80%. 82 and 80. Receiving mechanical ventilation, here in this one, 1.6%. Versus 12% in Delta, 8% in Beta, and then 16% in Ancestral. Isn't this a beautiful difference? Ventilation, only 1.6%. Admission to intensive care, and as you saw, 18%, and previous ones, 29% for Delta, 36% for Beta, and 42% for Ancestral. And then length of stay at the hospital. Check this out. 3 days versus 7 days versus 7.8 days versus 8 days. Length of stay is reduced to. Deaths, 2.7% versus 29.1% with Delta, 25.5% with Beta, and 19.7% with Ancestor. It will be really good to understand, out of number one, all the cases, what is their breakdown of vaccinated and unvaccinated? We don't have it. And out of those who came to the hospital, these 2,351 vaccinated versus unvaccinated, that will be very interesting to see as well. So here, this is it for today. I hope I'm gonna go back to the Happy New Year part and then stop there. Did you like this cartoon? Don't tase me, bro. And then this is the Happy New Year. So once again, Happy New Year. Now what I'm going to do is, we are at 6:30 exact. So I'm going to hang up here and then go and start Zoom. I have sent the link on Patreon and on Discord. So I'll see you there in a few minutes. And if you would like to, please do me a favor, please like, subscribe, and share. And if you would like to support this work, there are links in the description. You can buy me a coffee, or you can become a patron, or you can use PayPal. With all of this, Happy New Year. Stay safe, happy, and healthy. I hope, I pray, and I feel from data and mechanisms, it seems like the pandemic is over, another 1 month or 2 months, but please keep your guard up. Whatever you believe is helping you be safe. You have spent about 2 years and stayed safe. Whatever is that mechanism, continue to do that. Take care of yourself, and love you and support you, and stay safe. See you in a few minutes on Zoom.